teaches creative writing in chaos and recovery programs and collaborates with artists and educators of all backgrounds to create spaces of refuge for the human spirit. Today, she'll be hopefully talking to us about a recent trip of hers to Maui, Hawaii, and we'll be hearing about how that changed her view of community. So I'd like to welcome Andréana to our group and let her take the floor.
Thank you all. What a beautiful introduction. Thank you so much for all of you being here, and for me being able to share my heart with you in this very transformative journey that I have just been on. So I'm going to share my screen with you all, and give me a thumbs up when when you can see it. So give me a second. Let's see. Okay. So slideshow. All right, can you see that? Okay, perfect. So I'm calling this little talk tonight, and hopefully we can have a bit of a conversation, discussion afterwards. I'm calling it Into the Mystery, Opening the Midmost Heart. And that's really, for me, what this life, the spiritual journey is about, right? It's, of course, the search for truth, getting to know ourselves better, getting to know each other better, but ultimately, the soul, God, it is a mystery, and words cannot approach it, and our brains cannot approach it, but the heart, I think the heart is the closest we can come. Baha'u'llah says that the city of the heart belongs to God alone. And I really felt after the pandemic, which was, if you were protected from it, I am so grateful, but we were all affected collectively by the trauma, the loss of life, the loss of mobility. I mean, there's so many things that we all endured. And during that time, I remember walking up, I think it was really right before the pandemic really started in the United States. And I remember walking up to a hill overlooking Chattanooga, the city, and it's very green here and beautiful. And the prayer came into my heart, burn away the veils which shut me out from thy beauty. And I think that prayer really was in my heart all of last year. And when I was finally able to travel again, that prayer would continue to be in my heart. And the rest of that paragraph goes, and lead me unto the ocean of thy presence. And of course, Maui being surrounded by ocean, I felt very strongly that I was approaching something, some grandeur, some mystery that I was very eager to touch and to feel more closely, perhaps, than I had yet been able to. So that was always in my consciousness. I went not knowing very many people. I had one friend. I met more people when I arrived, but it really was just a leap into the unknown. I felt that I had to do this for myself. I had been very isolated during the pandemic. I lived by myself. Fortunately, I had my family not too far away, but I had really not been around my peers for quite a long time. So this was a chance for me to be more in communion with people again. So I'm gonna, for those of you who are new to the Bahai Faith, I'm just gonna give a very brief overview of what the Bahai Faith is, just its essence, and then I'm gonna go a little bit more into my own journey with the Bahai Faith and in the community. So basically, the Bahai Faith is the world's newest independent religion, and it was founded, it was revealed by Baha'u'llah, who is God's messenger for this day, and whose coming was foretold by all of the major world religions, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all foretold of this promised one. And this promised day is what Baha'u'llah has brought. And it is now, all of the chaos in the world, all of the confusion, it is the birth pangs of this new creation that Baha'u'llah is heralding. Baha'is also believe in what is called progressive revelation. And this means that there is really one ever unfolding faith of God, religion, and covenant with God. And God never leaves humanity alone. So there's no end to the revelation. It is continuous, and it is through these divine teachers, these divine messengers that come approximately every 1,000 years in human history, that as humanity veers off course, we are brought back into alignment with our true nature, which is our spiritual nature, our connection to God. And so Baha'is believe that in this day, there have been actually 2 manifestations. It is such a powerful, potent time in human history that there really have been 2 manifestations. The Bab was the first. He foretold the coming of Baha'u'llah. The Bab means in Arabic, the gate. He was the gate through which this new revelation really was birthed into this world. And Baha'u'llah is a title which means the glory of God. And Baha'is are consider themselves followers of that glory. And again, just very, very briefly, I won't go into too much detail, but these are approximately the 10 essential teachings of the Bahai Faith. There are more, there are many social laws as well that as you read more of the Bahai writings, you will become, accustomed to, but the essential teachings are the independent search for truth. There is no clergy in the Bahai Faith, so we all must find the truth for ourselves, that there is one God, we are one human family, and that all religions come from that one divine source. There's harmony between science and religion. They are 2 wings of a bird, just as men and women are 2 wings of a bird. We are equal. Universal human rights, universal education, ending extremes of wealth and poverty, and the fact that Baha'is, while we can be active in social justice issues and even in political issues, we do not ascribe to any political party, so we are independent of partisanship. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to talk more personally about my my journey to Hawaii, which honestly was never even on my bucket list. It felt very out of my reach. It felt, for one, too expensive, and it felt, I don't know, I had no conception of it other than the touristy aspects, which I wasn't really interested in. Of course, that is not the reality. When you know the culture, the spirit, meet the local people, it's very, very different. And I'd always heard of this term aloha as a greeting, and I didn't understand that truly is a way of life. And when you're in Hawaii and immersed in that way of life, it has a profound effect physically on your health, on your ability to be open to someone else, to connect to people. And I really love this, this quotation, which is by an elder, a Hawaiian elder named Nana Viri. And she says, "Think of aloha, streaming, pouring, rushing, and shining into you, through you and out from you in all directions, while you sit quietly. Life is lived from the inside out. You are a dynamic center in the creative flow that is aloha." And I think if you replace the word aloha with love, with spirit, with God, with soul, you will have the same understanding of what she's trying to say. Aloha really does mean love, but it has many aspects to it. It has the aspect of hospitality, of generosity, of patience, of kindness. And all of those things are practiced, or should be practiced, I should say, by all of us in our community building endeavors. And here's just one more quote I wanted to share, when she says, "The consciousness of aloha is the sum and substance of all religion. It is the essence of the teachings of all the seers and mystics in the world's history. To live aloha is the first essential of every satisfactory life. The second is to go out thinking, speaking, writing, loving, living from this center, to serve that consciousness in others." And honestly, I could not think of a better way of encapsulating the Baha'i way of life either, that the purpose is to grow our own souls. The purpose of our life is to grow our souls and to serve from that soul center, to serve each other, to serve the soul in someone else. And I really say, I have to say, I experienced that when I was in Hawaii. And again, that beautiful video that you showed at the beginning of our session with the sea, and that we are all waves of the sea, is such a perfect metaphor, because Baha'u'llah also uses that metaphor often. And he says, "Immerse yourself in the ocean of my words. that ye may unravel its secrets and discover all the pearls of wisdom that lie hid in its depths. And I have to say, just standing with my feet in the ocean, the tide is so powerful. You wade in just a little bit and it will knock you off your feet. It's so strong. And it humbled me, you know, truly, that I could swim out into it a little bit, but it was also fearsome and beautiful in a way that, you know, words cannot really approach. And as a writer, I was very humbled because I didn't have the words to encapsulate the ocean. Only divine revelation can approach that mystery that we're talking about. And this was another very special passage that came to me while I was in Maui. It's a hidden word from Baha'u'llah. And it starts, "O son of spirit, the best below." Oh, that's another hidden word. This one is, "O son of being, thy paradise is my love, thy heavenly home reunion with me. Enter therein and tarry not. This is that which hath been destined for thee in our kingdom above and our exalted dominion." This was the hidden word. When my mother said it, she knew that she was a Baha'i. This was in the 70s. She was living in Australia. She was a teacher. She was very drawn to the indigenous peoples, to social justice, and to the Baha'is, because she felt that they were the people she met who were not prejudiced. And her heart was desiring those kinds of people. And when I was in Maui, I was sitting on the beach with a friend, and she turned to me out of the blue and she quoted this hidden word. And I said, "Why did you quote that hidden word to me, of all the hidden words?" And she said, "Well, that's the hidden word that told me I needed to come to Maui. When I read that hidden word, I knew that I too am worthy of being in paradise. Like I too am worthy of this beautiful island, this beautiful place, because it is so beautiful and also so small. The resources are very precious, that as an outsider, you feel, what right do I have to be in this very sacred, special place?" And it is a revelation to know that each one of us, wherever our paradise lies, ultimately, of course, it's a spiritual paradise, the paradise of a peaceful heart, but that paradise is destined for us. And being surrounded by beauty like you are in a place like Maui, for me at least, it really helps me contemplate and envision what paradise, you know, in this earthly plane and also in the spiritual realm must actually be like. So this is a picture of some of my soul family on Maui. Some are Baha'i, some are not. We're just a lovely mix of people. Some are natives, some are, you know, expats, and then me, the newbie of the group. And we would meet every Saturday in a park and have what we call the soul circle. So it was kind of a devotional space. We'd also do meditation. We would read some of Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah. We'd read some of his writings. We'd discuss it with each other. We'd also talk about social justice on the island. We talk about the lack of affordable housing, the crisis of homelessness that even on Maui, in a place of such bounty, is critical and is a form of great suffering. And so talking about all these issues really lit a fire in me, that even though I was there for only 7 weeks, that I had to play a part in, you know, in somehow serving the community in some fashion. So this is another picture of our soul circle, meeting in the mornings under the tree, which I always loved, because in the Bahai Faith too, we have this metaphor of the tree of life. And so sitting under that tree was very much like, oh, here we are under the tree of life, and filling ourselves with these really spiritual words and just joyfulness. There was a lot of joy shared. This is another aspect of my time there, which was, as I mentioned, there is a lack of affordable housing. Many homeless people are also on Maui. Some come from the mainland because the weather is better, but often people just, they fall through the cracks. You know, they have jobs, they lose their job, they get sick, something happens, and they lose their ability to pay rent. And so this is a homeless outreach clinic that is located by one of the churches. And it's really an interfaith, interdenominational support network for a lot of the homeless people on Maui, not to help them, but to accompany them and to have friendship and support and food and all the necessities that are required. So it's a really beautiful program called Maui Rescue Mission. And I went there one day because I was invited by a pastor I bumped into, and I got into a conversation with the director, and he just said, we really need someone to help tell these stories. These people who come to us, they have such incredible stories, and not a lot of people know what they've been through. And if they knew what they'd been through, hopefully they would want to make a difference and change the system so that there's more affordable housing, there's better policies in place, there's more social support. And I was like, well, I'm a writer. I was like, I could maybe tell a few of the stories. And so that's how one thing leads to another. And I was able to interview some of the people who are being served by this Maui Rescue Mission, and I just sent off the stories to the founding director just yesterday, and so these were some of the people, Becky and Scott. On the previous page was Brian, and they all come from such different backgrounds. They've all suffered, but they're all trying to find their way and live a better life, as we all are. So it's really a bounty and an honor for me to listen to their stories and capture them in some way that hopefully can assist others as well. This is Jean. She lives in her car, and with her husband, she has kidney disease. They owned a successful taxi business, and then when Uber and Lyft came onto the island, it took away a lot of their business, and they couldn't make it anymore. So again, a very understandable reason why someone would not have a home or a roof under their head, but nonetheless, a very devastating one for her, especially as a 75-year-old. And I just want to weave in this quote by Baha'u'llah, because really for me, the Baha'i teachings on justice are absolutely revolutionary, because it's not that justice is something out there. Justice starts in us, in our hearts. It's a way of seeing each other. It's a way of being together. It's a way of loving one another. And when we don't see that happening, it's a way of raising our voices and making things different. And so Baha'u'llah says, the path is unmistakable and the proof is evident. Change injustice into justice and inequity into equity. We cherish the hope that the breaths of divine inspiration may strengthen thee. And what I love about this quote is it's very matter of fact. Just do it. Just change injustice into justice. Just don't talk about it. Don't wait for some savior to come. The power is in you, and the spirit will sustain you and guide you. I mentioned to you the beauty of the island, and for me, that beauty is very apparent in the words of Baha'u'llah, and he often uses the metaphor also of fragrance, perfume. And as I was walking one evening towards sunset, I sort of stumbled into a thicket of jasmine. And jasmine has such an overpowering aroma. It's like nothing else. And it really reminded me of my mother, who I mentioned earlier had become a Baha'i in the 70s, and she transferred that love of the Bahai Faith to me. She passed away 11 years ago on one of the Baha'i holy days, Rizvan, which is the Feast of Paradise. And my mother always wore jasmine perfume. So whenever I come into contact with jasmine, it reminds me of her. So this was just a moment that I was able to capture where I really felt enveloped by the perfume of the island, but also my mother's beautiful, beautiful fragrant spirit. Another aspect of life on Maui was the food. And that was a wonderful and delicious way of imbibing and ingesting the island. And of course, you can get junk food and you can get McDonald's and all of that stuff. I did not go that route. There was a restaurant that I really loved. It was called Roots, and it was very organic and local, and they had these beautiful beautiful bowls of just all this kind of goodness. And it really reminded me again of this prayer, make thy beauty to be my food and thy presence my drink. I was like, oh boy, I could really feel that now. And so it was, for me, a very healing experience because, you know, again, our planet is so overburdened, and often, you know, even our food, we don't maybe think about it in the terms of it's for nourishment, but it's also for healing. And Abdu'l-Baha talks a lot about that food can be medicine. And I really felt that in not only in the types of food that I was eating, but in the communal aspect, where you aren't sitting at home alone, which I had been doing for a year plus. You know, I was now with people and we were sharing a meal together, either out or in someone's home. And that aspect, again, just, it was just so beautiful for my spirit. One practice I want to share with you all, which I found very helpful just in my own spiritual life, is a Hawaiian ritual called, and I hope I'm going to pronounce it correctly, Ho'oponopono. And it basically means to make right, to reconcile, to return to balance. And of course, this isn't, you know, I don't have the native Hawaiian here, but essentially it's a chant that you can say to yourself. You can say it if there's a brokenness in a relationship or in a family situation, even to the earth, honestly, because we have a lot of brokenness with regards to our relationship with the earth. And it's just 4 lines. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And you really have to start internally with yourself, the things that you need to forgive yourself for, thank yourself for, love yourself for. And you know, it's a healing practice that I feel anyone of any background can benefit from. And so that's just one thing I wanted to pass along practically, in addition to, of course, the Baha'i teachings. The indigenous wisdom of this planet is a tremendous treasure house. And we really owe it to ourselves to listen to the indigenous peoples of the world now. I'm almost at the end, friends, and then hopefully we can have a bit of a conversation. I'll just end with a couple more quotations from the writings. I mentioned to you about my mother and her passing, and I was reminded of her many times, but there is this beautiful prayer for the departed that I think of whenever I see the light on the ocean or the light on the sea. And part of the prayer says, "O Lord, glorify his station, shelter him under the pavilion of thy supreme mercy, cause him to enter thy glorious paradise, and perpetuate his existence in thine exalted rose garden, that he may plunge into the sea of light in the world of mysteries." So here we kind of come full circle, that even though this life is about approaching the mystery, approaching ourselves, knowing ourselves, maybe if we're lucky enough to have a partner in life, you know, the mystery of another human being and marriage, but ultimately we have to pass out of this world. And the ultimate mystery is to go through the veil of death and to know that our spirits are eternal. And Baha'is very much believe in the eternal nature of the spirit, of the soul, that is everlasting, that is a part of the divine creation that will never fade and never die. So to have that faith and to know that I can pray to my mother, she can pray for me, is a golden thread that has guided me, you know, through my life. And again, Baha'u'llah says, "This is the center of the mystery. He doeth what he willeth and ordaineth what he pleaseth," meaning God, that we can't always know why. Why did I suffer so much? Why did I lose this dear person? Why did this happen or that happen? And we ask ourselves that when we can't understand. But ultimately, that's part of the mystery of spiritual sacrifice and growing our souls, and learning to lean on one another and love one another through those difficult times. And this is the last quotation, which was very much like the song that you started with. "Burn thou brightly with the flame of this undying fire. which the All-Merciful hath ignited in the midmost heart of creation, that through thee the heat of his love may be kindled within the hearts of his favored ones. Follow in my way and enrapture the hearts of men through remembrance of me, the Almighty, the most exalted. So I just hope that my very heart-opening experiences in Hawaii can be shared with you, and that energy can be continue to be transmitted to others. And of course, the rainbow. I mean, I saw so many amazing rainbows, and so I had to, of course, end with the sign of hope, and healing for our world. So that's my presentation, everyone. Thank you for your patience and presence here, and I would love to hear from you if there's any questions. If I didn't explain something or you have your own experiences, I would love to hear from you.